Here we go.
Hey.
Hey. Are you wearing orange too? Oh, look at that. Hi, how are you?
I am good. How are you?
I'm so great. Thank you so much for joining me and being willing to share your amazing story with us, Um, just as like a little background. So my Pass the Mic segments, I just look for other women with chronic illnesses. And I'm open to all women, but I really, really try to focus on or highlight women of color with chronic illnesses because we are very, very underrepresented in this area, and just give us a platform to kind of speak and tell our stories. And maybe you never know, something that you're going through can resonate with the next person that's going to, feel something or be diagnosed or kind of encounter a similar story. So we're just here to like uplift and inspire and have a sense of community, and also educate people who don't have chronic illnesses, because it's something that unless you have one, you really don't know. So thank you so much for joining us. Today we have Rachel, and she's my first MS warrior. So
Oh, I'm fancy.
yeah, so you will be giving us completely new facts. We won't be like, oh, we didn't hear this before. um, so yes, I'm very, very excited to get started. I have some questions. Oh, so before I get started, Rachel actually already did a written interview, and it is live on the blog. So if you haven't had a chance to read it, you can go check it out after this. And it's just a generalized, question and answer session. And here we're just going to get more candid. But if there's anything I ask that you're like, oh, I don't want to talk about it, you don't have to. No pressure at all. This is all about good vibes and good energy.
Orange. One of my best friends commented, this was not planned.
No, it wasn't.
I was wearing orange specifically because it is the color of MS. But we matching and we vibing, so it's gonna be a good interview.
We here. Yes. All right. So can you, I guess, give a general synopsis, like in layman's terms, what is MS?
So MS is a condition or disease that affects the nervous system. Mm-hmm. There are nerves as far as the spine and the brain specifically. And so neurons and things of that nature aren't connecting or sending signals the correct way. And with that comes the different symptoms such as neuropathy, which is numbness and tingling, to a lot of just chronic pain, fatigue, depression, anxiety, and a few other symptoms, which are the typical symptoms that most MS warriors face.
Right. Is there a typical, I guess, like age onset or demographic that it impacts more so than others?
Not that I have read. They do say most people are diagnosed earlier. So for me, like I just found out a year ago, is a kind of odd. I'm kind of an outlier as far as the groups that are usually people find out a little bit younger than this that they have MS. Not to say that it's uncommon, but usually people would have known a little bit sooner, maybe like in their 20s and early 30s. And little 40-ish, getting close anyways. I'm 37.
You round in the corner. You're still around the block though. You're not there yet.
So finding out a little bit later in the game is a little bit uncommon, but not like some unicorn necessarily, at least not as far as my MS is concerned.
Right.
And as far as demographics, I don't think it really chooses any particular person. It is higher in women, specifically African American women, I believe, but it's not, no stranger to the rest of the demographics. Men, women, young, old, it doesn't really matter. Everybody can get it. They ain't got no picks.
It's not picky.
Not at all.
You briefly talked about like the events that kind of led up to like you being diagnosed, and I was like, get out of here. Like, ooh. So do you want to kind of share or go over that with the people? And yeah.
So I work at a charter school here in Atlanta. By the way, I live in Atlanta, but I'm from Philadelphia. I'm a whole Philly John. I live, breathe it, doesn't matter. And you could, the Philly girl just lives in Atlanta. But I've been living here for about 5 years. I work at a charter school, and historically, a friend slash coworker of mine, we typically would celebrate the first week of school by going to happy hour. And this is the week where, or a couple of weeks rather, where the students aren't there yet. It's just teachers and staff and things of that nature. So that Friday, we went to happy hour. And we're, sipping a drink, having some appetizers, and out of nowhere, I just start feeling kind of crazy and woozy. But I'm like, my drink, I've been granny sipping, as they would say. So I know I ain't drunk. What is going on? I remember reaching over to my friend. I'm like, I don't feel good. And she's like, well, what's wrong? I was like, I feel drunk. She also looked at my drink too, like, you can't be. I'm like, I know. On top of that, I have a very high, or at least at that point, a high tolerance for alcohol. So I'm like, this ain't nothing. What's going on? Next thing I know, from me saying that to her, I pass out and I don't remember falling. I just remember feeling like the best example that I give everybody is, you know how when you're vacuuming the floor and you go too far and the plug gets pulled out the wall and it's still on? That's what it felt like. So next thing I know, I'm literally waking up on the curb outside of this venue. Meanwhile, it's probably about 6 p.m., which ain't that late, right? Yeah. We literally got there when happy hour had just started. We were like the first ones there. And this is a venue that switches over to like a nighttime situation, but we get out of there before then. Happy hour is from 4 to 9, I believe, at this place. So we're there. It's about 5:36. I'm literally being generous with the 6, which furthermore was like, well, what's going on? Meanwhile, I'm getting carried out of this venue. Now, I ain't no small girl, Morgan. By no means, okay? So I get carried out of this place. I'm sure I look like the drunk girl that partied too hard, and like 2 o'clock in the morning. Y'all been at the club before where you seen that one chick who had way too many of her friends and she getting carried out. Well, that was me, except I wasn't drunk. So I didn't know what's going on. So I wake up, the friend that I'm with is now standing behind me, rubbing my back, and she's holding a cup of ice water, trying to give it to me. But I guess, I don't even know how long she was standing out there, to be honest. I don't know how much time passed from when I fainted to waking up. But a nice amount of time, passed or whatever. But I'm unsure. She doesn't know either. So I wasn't able to confirm that. So finally, I'm able to kind of start getting my bearings together. She goes and gets the car. And she's like, oh, I was like, sis, I'm not going to be able to walk to that car. Can you bring it up to the curb? So she asks because it's like valet kind of set up in front of it. And she asks them, they're like, yeah, it's fine. So she gets the car. And by then, I kind of get my bearings and I'm able to get up and walk to the car. So she's like, hey, you want to go to the hospital? And I'm like, nah, I think I might be all right. Maybe I overheated or this, that, and the third. And I'm not one of those people that loves going to the hospital. I don't think anybody does. But there's some people that use it as like their primary care doctor. So I'm just like, yeah, nah. And then what happened? I lost my train of thought. Oh, so then kind of rest the rest of that weekend. Like I said before, it was Friday. Saturday, I think I just slept all day. Sunday, I'm preparing to get ready for work the next day. And at that point, I started having like chest pains. I don't know what's going on. And the guy I was seeing at the time decided, you might want to go to the ER. And I'm like, all right. So I go. They don't know what's going on, but they're like, that don't sound normal. Right. You might want to follow up with your primary care doctor. So I did. And I get there finally when I get an appointment or whatever. And she then forwards me to a neurologist. He's like, oh, you probably, because at this point, the left side of my body is numb. And I'm like, this ain't normal. And it's tingling and I can't feel nothing. I'm touching it. And I'm like, I don't feel that. That's not cool. So he's like, okay, well, we want to do an MRI. And I'm like, okay, but he's really focused on, I think you hurt yourself because that pain is aligns with neck injury. And I was like, no, I think something's wrong that caused me to fall, not the fall causing the something wrong. I was like, the cause and effect is all wrong and I need us to get this together. He's like, right. Oh, no, I don't think that. So I informed him I have a twin sister. She's on the live as well. She has MS. So I tell him that.
Wow.
Right. And so he's like, well, that don't necessarily mean that. Let's just follow up with just still the neck MRI. I'm like, all right, whatever. So then, like I said before, I had already seen my primary care doctor. She had ran some blood work. It comes back in my charts that I tested positive for this ANA exam that, or testing that lets you know that you have some kind of autoimmune something going on, but they don't know exactly what. So I hit him back like, hey, this tested positive. I have my twin sister that's has MS and she's had it for almost over 10 years at this point. I really think that you should include a brain MRI. Let's just rule it out. And he's like, okay, but he was very reluctant to do so. And so finally, we go ahead and do that. He adds it. Insurance does what they got to do. And I finally go in for my MRI and they do both. And don't sure they call me literally that afternoon because I pull up to my job. I did a half day of work. Pull up to my job. They're like, the doctor want to see you tomorrow. I'm like, something. So I get there the next day and they're like, he had to humble himself. Like, right, Miss Carson, you have MS. So he shows him the lesions that are on my brain. They're on the side that would align with the numbness and tingling that I was feeling at that time. Now, at this point, it's now spread to the right side of my body. So now, literally, throughout this, about a good month of time that passes, I'm dragging. Can I curse?
Yeah.
Okay.
Girl. Yeah.
I'm literally dragging my ass to work, like literally. And so that was just like, okay, so by that time I get that, and he's like, I want to go ahead and just start treatment. He did say he wanted to do a spinal tap, but I was like, what are you going to find out? I don't need unnecessary tests. And I'm the one of those people that little 2% of people that get the little random side effects from some medicine or some drug or some procedure. Yeah, that's me. I was like, so you go ahead and give me this spinal tap. What information are you going to gain that you may not have already? Because if I get this spinal tap and then I walk out of here and I'm paralyzed, we don't have a problem. And this building going to say Rachel Camille Carson across the top of it. He was like, oh, he's like, it'll just help us figure out treatments and this, that, and the third. I was like, well, no, we're not doing it. And he was like, well, I think we have enough information and we can go ahead and confirm it as MS without the spinal tap. I said, okay, great. So then we started a round of steroids. So I had to go to the hospital or infusion center for steroids to be given to me intravenously for, it was about 3 or 4 days. To the point that they actually left the IV in my arm to come every day so they wouldn't have to keep trying to find my vein. So did that, and that kind of steroids, for those watching, it kind of like wipes your body out and kind of hits the reset button, for lack of better words, to kind of reboot everything and get things going again. And so after that, he was like, also, I'm sorry, that previous doctor's appointment, he asked me what drugs was my sister on and has she tried. So I gave him those, and I was like, the one she's on at that time was called Abagio, which I mentioned in the article as well. So he's like, well, if that worked good for her, we'll go ahead and put you on it. I said, cool. So I'm on that. And then again, back to him being humble, he recommended that I go to a clinic here that specializes in MS. So it's called the Shepherd Center, which is like world renowned. People fly in and out of the country to come to this particular center. So I was like, put me in the best hands. I'm okay with that. So I go there a few months later after being on this drug for about 3 months and meet my new doctor, love her to death. And she's, checking everything. She's like, well, I want to get a new baseline with you. And so we do another MRI and we can see that my lesions actually doubled in size, which means the drug I was on was not working. So she's like, let's try something else. She was like, and you're still in your childbearing years. And even though you might not be trying to get pregnant tomorrow, the Abagio is not good for if you want to get pregnant, especially because it takes a very long time for it to leave your body. So that's something that you plan to do in the next 4 or 5 years, because it apparently stays in your body for like 2 years, give or take. She was like, it might be a good idea just to get you off now, especially since you've already been on it for 3 months, which means it's not going to be long to get that out of your system. Right. So I'm like, cool. So I have to do this little treatment, kind of like a charcoal thing, but it was this other nasty orange drink. It was disgusting that I had to take for 2 weeks. 3 mil, every meal I had to take this. It was disgusting. And then I started my new treatment that I'm on that's called Tisabri. So that's intravenous. So every 4 weeks, about once a month, give or take. Sometimes it ends up being twice a month, but not really, because at the top and the bottom. I go and I get that treatment, and I've had another MRI since being on that for 6 months, and everything's A-okay. So that's been working really great for me, and so far so good. That's about it. I think I might have went a little too far with the answer, but yes.
I was like, oh, she went through all my questions because you had a lot of good points. when you mentioned that your sister had it, and I was like, oh, well, did they use that to kind of chart your
Right.
treatment?
It was like
Um,
or my, yeah, yep.
yeah, but obviously, I mean, nothing was having a chronic illness one size fits all. So clearly, I was like,
Right.
that don't work for me. So I
She's
would say that it's actually amazing, well, not amazing, but fortunate for you that you did have a sister who had that experience, because you were really able to advocate for yourself and be like, I'm pretty familiar with this, can you please check? And so I hate to ask this question, but what ethnicity was this doctor that gave you so much
what,
flack?
what you think?
um you know, this is like a recurring theme that I find with a lot of my guests. And just even so, I had to check myself because I was like, I don't think I've experienced that. But then it's like, maybe I have, and I just internalized it as, oh, that's just normal practices. You know what I'm saying? But in general, Black women in the healthcare system are treated so poorly. We aren't taken seriously. Our pain thresholds aren't acknowledged. It's just a really bad situation to be in when you're going to someone for help and they're the experts and you're like, hey, I need you to take me seriously, and they're kind of just like, you be all right. What was that movie? My Big Fat Greek Wedding. Just put some Windex on it. You all right? Like, what are you talking about? My arm is falling off.
Right, right. They're like, just put a band-aid on it. You got it. You cool.
Yeah.
So, no, somebody just responded. They thought he was white. He actually wasn't. He was like Indian,
Mm.
something in that genre, race, ethnicity. I don't really know what to call it, but yeah, he was over there.
Middle Eastern, or
Yeah, that's a better. Yeah,
Asian-ish.
yeah.
So, going back to, you said, so looking back, can you say that you actually experienced some symptoms before you were diagnosed, or you just think it just came all of a sudden? Like, is that common for it to be?
I would say a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
So, about a few months prior to my diagnosis, I was diagnosed with high blood pressure, which had never been an issue for me. Usually the fat Black girl comes into the doctor's office. She on paper is obese. She must have this, that, and the third. And typically I have a clean bill of health, right?
Mm-hmm.
In this particular doctor's appointment, when I got a physical, I finally found me a primary care doctor here in Atlanta that I loved, because the one I had before, I was living on the other side of town, so it was just too far to get over there. So I'm like, I need somebody that's either on this side of town, and I wanted a Black woman doctor.
Mm-hmm.
So that was very, specific. But she diagnosed me with high blood pressure. And I mean, the number said it, but I never had readings of that such. And I had shared that with her as well. She's like, is this normal? I'm like, nah. And it was like usually my baseline is about 140 over 80, 90, which is high, but not like I'm about to go have a stroke or a heart attack high, but still some reasons of concern. So she
Right.
put me on a high blood pressure medicine. And I wouldn't say it's necessarily working, but we'll see. I just literally had a doctor's appointment yesterday with her. So I'm waiting for my results for everything on that. But yeah, I would say the high blood pressure started. And then after that, it felt like my body just was falling apart. Now I can remember a few other moments that are real random, but it probably is related. So about 4 years ago, I was living in my apartment before I bought my home. I had decided I'm gonna get a cat. Got a cat. She was beautiful, Siamese cat. She reminded me of my grandmother's cat, same color, scheme, and everything. Randomly, I started getting migraines. I ain't never had a migraine a day in my life. But I'm like, what is going on? So people like, well, went to the doctors. If they had done an MRI, they might have seen something then. They did a CAT scan. Nothing came up. So I'm just popping. So I'm drinking Pepsi. I'm popping migraine medicine. Turning off the lights. I'm drinking water. One of my cousins suffers from really bad migraines, so she's like, you need to drink some water. You need to do this, that, and the third. And sometimes that would help, but I still, why am I having migraines, right?
Right.
So I'm like, all right, well, let me give everybody like, well, what's new? Have you been eating new? Have you tried? I'm like, well, I did get a cat. So I put the cat in the spare bedroom, locked the door. Well, not locked it, but she was in there with all her stuff. And I cleaned the house of all the cat hair, and the headaches went away. So I'm like, well, then it must be the cat. So I got rid of the cat.
Aw.
I was sad. But we hadn't bonded that long. I probably had her for about 3 months. And again, I'm being generous with that time frame. Migraine's gone. So in my head, it was the cat. Well, since
Right.
my research of MS, apparently there are people who don't experience migraines at all. And typically that is a sign of the onset of MS.
Mm.
But again, had I gotten that MRI then, they may have picked it up then. Not sure, but it's a high possibility they would have. So to answer your question, yes, the migraines, that, and every now and again I would see like little spots and my vision would just go black sometimes. And apparently that is an MRI symptom. But I just thought, I'm hungry. But now sometimes that happens when you get hungry.
Ah!
Oh, I see shots. I need to go eat. So these are all like isolated events that now having this diagnosis, it probably contributed to MS, unfortunately.
Nah, I'm just hungry.
I thought I was hungry.
I love it. You would have loved being raised by my grandma. She literally, like, I would be like, oh, my elbow hurt. Oh, you just need to eat something. Literally. Um, so what, you've only been like on a handful of medications, thankfully for you, but have you experienced like, and you were on prednisone, how was that, experience being on the prednisone? And I've never taken it through the IV. I've only taken it oral, but I was on it for 3 years orally. Yes. And,
Even legal?
huh?
Is that legal? I don't think they should be allowing that.
It's legal.
You ain't even believe that, Morgan.
I had to beg. Like, I was literally like, listen, I need to come off this medication. Like, I had to beg with my doctor. Like, he was like, yo, you need to be stable. Listen, we just need to get this out of my system, because you can feel the effects of the medication on you. Like, what is sleep? What is sleep? Like, prednisone, it's like a super drug, and it does a lot of good, but only in short intervals. Long term, it's definitely not good, and it's definitely not good for Black women because it degrades your bone density. It's does a lot of things. So did you experience that with the IV versions,
Yeah.
or it was okay?
IV, like I said before, for 3 to 4 days, and then they had to taper me off of it. So I took the pill form for about 2 or 3 weeks, and I would just take less and less until I wasn't taking any more. Can't remember the actual dosages, but whatever, that's not important. Child, I felt like I was going crazy. My neurologist did not give me any more. Again, why I had to get rid of his ass, okay?
Yeah.
I felt like mental, like seriously, I felt mental. I felt like I was going out of my mind. I remember I was at work one day. I'm dealing with the fact that I got this new diagnosis, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to die. Because that was my original whatever. But girl, I'm at work. I just started bawling. My manager, who's the assistant, one of the assistant principals at the school, he came to say, hey. And I was like, hey, what's up? And he's a Virgo like me. He's from up north as well. We just got a connection. He's super cool. I jokingly call him Light Bright. You know, hey, bro, all that. We real cool. So he come in just, genuinely just checking on me. He would have did that anyway, but more so because of what I was going through. Mm-hmm. So he comes in, and he's like, gives me a hug, nothing out the ordinary. When I tell you, I start busting out crying. And he's like, it was one of them, like, like one of them cries, like, child, he was like, woo, like, he didn't know what to do. He's like, should I still hug you? I don't, because, sometimes you hug somebody and it makes them cry. But I don't know. Then one of my best friends, she just said, yeah, sis was tripping. So this is my best friend. I call my baby mama. This is the one who I said she came to visit me. Well, I think I said it in my live before I hopped on yours. But I'm calling her like, I don't know what's wrong. She's a nurse. She's like, well, I think it might be the steroids. She's just thinking I'm dealing with, still processing my diagnosis, if anything. And I'm thinking that's the case too. And I'm like, I feel mental. Like, I'm a step away from y'all might need to call somebody. And I live alone. This is good. What's going on? I didn't know what was going on. But thankfully, I was getting off of it and tapering down. So I kind of returned back to like some sense of like homeostasis. And so when I return for follow-up, I tell him about these like super emotions and oh yeah, and insomnia was a big thing too. I'm up at night looking crazy as shit. Like,
What's up?
where the party at? Where
I
we
can't
going?
do anything,
Where we going?
but I'm up. Can't
Listen,
do shit, but I'm up.
tired as fuck, but can't go to sleep because I'm like, what's going on, huh? Every little sound I'm hearing, like, what the hell? Yeah. So everybody said they hate that medication. Yes. So I'm like, okay, so when I go to my follow-up with that particular neurologist, I'm telling him, he's like, oh yeah, that's some of the side effects. Nigga, why you ain't tell me? Now, not that would have changed the symptoms, but I could have prepared myself for what was happening. Because if I need to be on this medication, then it is what it is. But dude, really? You thought it was a good idea to just let me go out in these streets with this? And I'm just walking around like, so I was not too excited about that. But thankfully for my dope ass support team, especially this is my best friend that said I was tripping, she held me down.
See, I wasn't emotional crying, but I was like angry. Like, roid rage is so real. It could be something just so minuscule. And I was at work one day and I was just like, I'm about to flip the table. And our desks are secured to the floor. But that day, I probably could have flipped the table. I was like, I need to go home. I think I went to my supervisor sent me an email, and it made me so upset that I walked 2 floors, stomped into her office and closed the door and gave her a piece of my mind. And I'm not even, that's not my personality. I'm very mellow and just like, people tripping. It ain't really got nothing to do with me. I don't live at work, whatever. But that rage, like, I literally felt the hate fire building in me. And it was just like, because I had to take it every single day.
And you said you wanted for 3 years?
3 years. And my weaning process was he would take me down like 5 milligrams every 3 to 4 months. So it took a long time.
How many milligrams were you on?
I was taking 60 milligrams a day. Exactly. It's been a long road. It's been a long road. So prednisone, you gotta be careful. Yeah, it took about 2. So my first year, I had to find a specialist because my original neurologist was also trash. I was put on it in like May. I had a surgery in December. And then I think like the following December, he said, okay, we can start tapering you down because, you know, you shouldn't be on this long term. But it just still took 2 years to taper me down from 60 milligrams a day to not being on anything. Yeah, because if you do it too fast, your body basically experiences withdrawal like you doing hard drugs. So and you're like, I don't know what to do. So it's just like, what is going on?
Now, question, that craziness I felt is what led me to seek therapy. Always wanted to do, especially after my mother passed about 14 years ago. But I was much younger. I was a little, spring chicken then. So I'm like, oh, I don't need to go. I ain't thinking about none of that. Whatever. I'm going to cry. This going to be that. And I'm going to move on. Whatever. I even moved states. This is my second time living in Atlanta. But I will say that was the push that I needed to finally go seek therapy because I was fresh out of coping mechanisms and I felt super crazy on that steroid. So I was like, oh no, I gotta go. And I still been a therapist since then. But I will say it was during that steroid situation that led me to that direction.
Right. So can you, if you feel up to it, talk about, I guess, more so like your mental state outside of the steroids, but just your mental state around being diagnosed with something that you literally have no control over your body, and it's like just like that, you were healthy and now you're not, and you're living alone. You think you have all these plans, and it's like that's out the window. Like, what is that like? Can you, just speak to like your mental state? Were you kind of just like, all right, I'm gonna take it on the chin and I'm gonna go with it, or were you like, oh my gosh, please just throw me off a cliff because I cannot take a second more of this?
Mm-hmm. So yes, I was, oh my God, throw me off a cliff. This can't be life. Why me? Woe
Mm-hmm.
is me. I can't say I got to the point where I necessarily threw a pity party per se, but I
Mm-hmm.
definitely was just starting to get into this dark space. And I'm familiar with this dark space from when, like I said before, my mother passed. So I'm like, I don't like the way this is making me feel. Like I got to do something.
Mm-hmm.
So that on top of the steroids was like, you got to do something quick, Rachel. You don't know how to cope with this. You got a lot of hats that you're wearing, and you need some professional help. Like I said before, I have a dope and amazing support system, um, but I needed professional help outside of that, right? Um,
Right.
Even though my twin sister deals with MS and has for the last 10 years, it just that I needed professional help. And so I sought out someone who isn't just someone that deals with chronic illnesses or grieving with death and loss, but she's a life. So she deals
Mm-hmm.
overall. So I plan to be with her for life if I can, or if it's necessary, anyways. And even during COVID, it got to the point where I was seeing homegirl once a week. Because it started off going bi-weekly. I was doing it, and then every now and again, depending, I would do once a month if I didn't feel like I needed it. She would like, oh Rachel, you don't really need to. Okay, cool. And I still was physically going into work. I'm working from home right now since schools are closed.
Mm-hmm.
But during COVID, because I was here by myself, like you said, I was seeing her once a week. But anyway, that was definitely my headspace. Like, what the fuck is going on and why? Why me? Like, I've done anything. Like, why I gotta suffer? Why? So after I sought therapy, she helped me process that and more or less change the why me to why not. And I honestly have to give me speaking and being more open about my condition to her. And my friends too, they all were like, oh yeah, 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 but they know I'm a pretty private person. So she's like, well, one day you'll get to it. And, but she wasn't pushing me. She's like, but I think that you would be dope. The way you speak, the way you talk. She found out I'm a blogger. So she's like, why wouldn't you share that journey? And I'm like, that ain't none of your business. Um, they don't need to know all of that. I get cute. I get fly,
Right.
wear clothes. I go to these events. That's all they need to know. And she like, okay, Rachel. She let it go, and that was it. And we continued to work on my journey through therapy. But
Mm-hmm.
then one day I was like, I think I'm ready. She like, ready for what? I was like, I'm ready to share my journey. She's like, homegirl cried in our session. I'm supposed to be the one.
Aww.
So I do give thanks to her for pushing me and just giving me that support that I needed to do this and share my journey here with you on my blog. I'm actually underneath you're probably gonna ask me some stuff about my blog later, so I'm gonna say that because I keep on. But yeah, that's definitely where I was at. So now my mindset has shifted, and I'm just like, okay, it's okay to not be okay, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's days like I'm a control freak. I'm a Virgo to the core. OCD, detail oriented, gotta be in control. I'm planning itineraries. We doing this at this time and this at the other time, and whatever. I'll even get up a little bit earlier so I can be on time because I could be late because I'm always got to draw my eyebrows and figure out outfits and this, that, and the third. So that ability to be in control of what my day looks like definitely took a toll on my mental because of all those things I just listed. And I'm like, I could wake up tomorrow and my feet are tingling and I can't feel them when I walk into the kitchen. Like, I don't like that. There's times where I'm just hella tired. And my tired is tired. I just slept all day. I might sleep 12 hours, wake up and still be tired as fuck. So I'm like, this ain't cool. I don't like this. But I'm doing better. I've been researching that whole spoonie theory, and that's been very helpful in realizing, okay, Rachel, you have, and for those of you that don't know what the spoonie theory is, it's you have a certain amount of spoons. And you deplete those throughout the day. And they include simple tasks like taking a shower, brushing your teeth, feeding the cats. I got cats again. That's when I realized I ain't allergic to cats. I got
Gang, gang.
um, making breakfast, things of that nature. And each of those activities mix withdrawals from your bank of spoons. So
Mm-hmm.
what happens is that's all you got left. So at the end of the day, if you already use, let's say you got 14 spoons and you use hypothetically about 16 of them, you SOL. Because that's why you're tired, sis. So just being more mindful of what I do, and also just communicating with my friends. Hey, like, because now I'm the friend that's bailing out, canceling plans. And usually I'm the one that was hyped trying to be at the happy hour. I'm the first one there, and let's go here and let's do this and let's go to Ross. Yeah, nah, I'm in the house chilling. Will say that also affected my mental state, not being able to be in control of just my day, my feelings, my whatever. And also I had self-diagnosed myself with anxiety and depression, but I thought it was seasonal. Well, no, not anxiety, it was just depression. I thought it was seasonal around the holidays, again, because my mother passed. So it's around the time that I usually get sad. Again, because that dark cloud just didn't go away when it normally does. I was like, again, I need to go to therapy. And she's like, you have depression and anxiety. What? So again, speaking of medication, I take Lexapro. And that's been hella helpful. And then every now and again, I dabble in some CBD and its cousin. You see how I did that? Works wonder actually for anxiety, depression, tiredness, restless leg syndrome, hunger, all that is all catch on. It's been wonderful. So yes. I think
That's
I answered the question
amazing.
plus some.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. So I guess what is, now knowing that you have a limited amount of spoons, like what is your typical day like? Like how do you kind of structure your day or your weeks around, I want to accomplish this, but I know I got to take care of myself.
So I am someone that writes everything down in a planner, right? Mm-hmm. So I kind of get an idea what my days are going to look like. Like I said before, I live in Atlanta. I don't drive though. And Atlanta is not like New York or Philly or DC or any other like major metropolitan city. It's trying to become that. But as far as public transportation goes, so when I'm out, I typically try to make all my errands on that same day. Even if I got to rip and run from the top of the city to the bottom, I'm going to do it on this day when I'm out. Now, I kind of got to break that up because I might get a little bit tired halfway through running my errands. So between spacing, as far as time management, really, so spacing it out. So to answer your question as far as what a typical day looks like, unfortunately, we're in COVID, right? But fortunately for me, that means I get to work from home, and I have been since March. Mm-hmm. So I don't have to travel to work. I don't have to rip and run through the building teaching students. I am a dean. I deal with discipline. So my job dealt with me literally chasing kids around the building. I work at a high school. Right. Bless my heart, girl. So with that, all of that out, I don't have to run myself rampant. So I actually look forward to stepping outside the house to run some errands here and there. And sometimes I'll just had a brain for it. I'll do that. I'll write stuff down, like I said before, with my planner, just to keep track of the things that I have to do. And that's what I was saying. I look forward to stepping out to do errands, and then with my monthly treatment, child, that's the day I put my eyebrows on, girl. But I don't know what this next month about to look like because they gave your girl some meetings at 7:00. I had to tell the scheduler dude, I can't get up early to put on my eyebrows for this appointment. Like, dog. Usually my appointments were in the afternoon because they were based around me working. Mm-hmm. And they put you out for like 6 to 8 months. So my last few appointments up until November literally were on Fridays at 3:00 because it was when my kids got out at 1:30 or so, or 2, and that would give me enough time to get to the fusion place and have that. But now that we're home, I'm like, all right, you can put me on Wednesdays. That's my less busy day. That's when my kids are asynchronous, and cool. I just went to treatment earlier this month, and he gave me this paper. Next few visits is at 7:00 in the morning. Poppy, you gotta can you change this? He's like, it's no more appointments. I'm like, ugh. But I'm still making it because, like I said before, I look forward to doing that, and that's one of the things I have to take care of, and it does make me feel much better. But yes, that is how I keep track of everything that's going on, and moving and grooving. So,
girl, ain't nobody looking at your eyebrows at 7 a.m. I'm gonna just tell you, they not. They are not. um, I
They do. When
posted
I walk through there, they be like, "Oh, here she come, looking
because
all
they
fancy.
waiting for
I need
you.
that."
Someone asked a question. I'm trying to pull it up because I did ask some of my followers what they wanted me to ask you.
And I see a comment. My sister mentioned something about weighted blankets. That has been my best friend. Do you have one, Morgan?
I had one. I did not like it. I hated it.
I,
Like I felt like I was like,
I
get me out. Like didn't like it at all. But I put it on my brother and he slept like a log.
what weight did you have?
I want to say it was the 40 pound.
Well, you got one more than me. And you looking from this live, you like you half of me. What? That's why you ain't like it. It was a whole body.
I was like, oh, I can't move. Like I was just it. I ain't like it at all. Like
So I have, mine is a 20 or a 25. I haven't used it really this summer because it was too hot for that. But you know,
mm-hmm.
it's starting. The temperatures are starting to drop, so I'll be returning. But that was like the best sleep I had gotten, especially like I said before, I suffer from restless leg syndrome sometimes, and I just feel like it's a nigga hugging you.
So you mentioned at the beginning that your bae at the time was the one who convinced you to go to the hospital. That's he poof be gone. Was that because of the MS or
Yeah,
that was just something different?
we just chilling. We living a single life right now.
Oh, I understand.
I
So well, living a single life, but pre-COVID, were you know, like dating? Like has MS affected your desire or ability to date and move forward and like the regular things in life of getting married, having kids, and exploring those other options?
um I still want to have children. I definitely want to get married. I think I want to get married. I don't know. Um, I like a life partner. Let me say that. Whatever we
Mm-hmm.
decide that's going to be, whether it's marriage or not, whatever. That particular situation kind of, had to end. It was just too much, for both of us, honestly. And then he's got some things he got to work on. And shoot, so do I, right?
We all do, yeah.
All work in progress, but I will say, during that time, he definitely showed up for me in that moment and did what he was supposed to do. So I'm thankful for that.
Mm-hmm.
It's supportive. So I do hope that when I venture back out into the dating pool, that I find someone that has that quality. So a few other qualities I can live without, but that support was dope. Like I needed that. Like it was that push I needed, making sure I was good, even from afar. So that was amazing because he didn't live here in Atlanta, so that was one of the biggest things.
Yeah.
So I hope to have that, and hopefully it's somebody that's local. Yeah. So, but that has not jaded my will to want to date and be in love and start a family and all of those things. So I still want to do that. I just gotta still kind of fresh, to be honest. It was about
Yeah.
2-3 months ago.
Oh,
Yeah, but I'm not jaded, and again, being in therapy help cope with that. So,
shout out to therapy. Because
so yeah.
I've had some horror stories. These men are ruthless. Like, I know your mother raised you, so
Ooh,
what happened? Like,
right.
one question we had was what's been the most challenging part of having MS?
I guess like I answered before, the lack of control,
Mm-hmm.
what my day might look like. On top of that, it would be sometimes the pain is a lot. And there's times that I don't really complain. And I don't think I complain at all. I have to ask my friends that, but I don't think I do. Um, but there are times where it does get crazy, and that's when they will hear like either I'll, disappear or I'm not answering my phone. And when I do, I'll let them know like, hey, I was literally under the bed because I was in pain, or I was doped up on the pain medicine or the other pain medicine. So till I was knocked out. And they were like, all right, and just making sure you was cool. And again, these people, and I hate it, but it is what it is. They live in Philadelphia. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they can't, like, there's one, my best friend, Sophia, if she could, and my best friend Patrice, if they could pull up on me and knock on my door, like, yeah, they would. So to not be, and those are the friends that they would probably have a key to my house because I got one. They would have a key to my house because I have one there when I visit in Philly. So they would be the ones like, oh, you ain't got to come open up the door. I'm letting myself in, sis.
Right.
That is the hardest part, being away from my biggest support system.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like I said before, the pain and not being in control of what my day is going to look like. So those would be the three I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. Support systems are really, really important. And so I forgot to ask you this. What was it like when you decided to come out the closet or like tell people? Because like when I was diagnosed, I think I told maybe like 4 people, and then you know how it wasn't like I was pregnant or anything, but I just didn't want to talk about it. Like
Right.
I literally couldn't speak the words without tearing up. So I was like, it's just I can't with y'all.
Right.
So I'm just gonna keep it quiet. If you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. But then I had symptoms where like I had to go out in public in an eye patch. So
Wow.
people would stare at you and it's like, oh, and then of course they're gonna ask. And then it's like, I'm just gonna be here. Just let me be in the house. just I don't have to deal with nobody except for myself.
Right. What condition
Yeah.
you have for those that are watching?
Oh, I actually have it's like a cousin to MS. It's called myasthenia gravis, so it's neuromuscular as well. But it's nothing in the brain. Basically, my thymus, so your thymus gland is the gland in your body that makes your antibodies. So it's most active when you're younger and you're trying to build your immune system. But for some reason, my thymus gland was producing antibodies that was attacking the nerve cells that makes your muscles function. So I get extreme weakness, and that comes for any voluntary muscle. So speaking, talking, chewing, eye movement, walking, carrying things, neck, breathing, anything that anything that you can think about and say, hey, I want to do this, it could potentially go weak at any moment. So one of the common symptoms, like double vision and droopy lids. So I woke up one day and I looked like I had a stroke. And I was like, what's going on? And, you know, I'm a semi-hypochondriac, but I don't know why this made sense to me at the moment. I'm like, my allergies real bad this season. Like, I didn't have a quick transition to something's wrong, let me get diagnosed. It was a few months because I went to every single doctor trying to figure out what was going on with this.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a hot mess. But I can talk about it now.
Yeah.
And thankfully, well, I was already in therapy when I ended up being diagnosed. So she didn't have to encourage me to do anything, but she was kind of like, girl, there's nothing wrong with you. I was like, what do you mean there's nothing wrong with me?
Like, you don't see this eye?
Exactly. You know, I guess she was just very optimistic.
Is your therapist Black?
She's Black. She was a West Indian woman, so you know, she was kind of a different stature. So I was like, girl, bye.
Right.
Suck it up.
Yeah, mine is Black too.
So yeah, but therapy is definitely helpful if you're going through anything traumatic or just general life. Like, we carry so many things from like childhood that you think you've gotten over and you haven't. And one thing that I've learned in my chronic illness journey is like stress or different things that you're internalizing express themselves physically. And so I don't try to live a stress-free life. Anything I'd be like, can't, sorry, do not disturb. Yep. I'll answer it tomorrow. Mom, I can't talk to you today. Like, even my own mom, I have to tell I can't today for my health.
Yep. And that was really when I realized that why I had to come out of that entanglement.
Yeah.
Because it was getting too stressful. But to answer your question about my coming out story, in the beginning, I was just like, nope, I ain't got it. I was in denial. Whatever. Definitely came to my best friends. I talked to them almost every day. And he was like, damn, really? That's crazy. How you feeling? I'm like, but they knew all the stuff that was happening along the way to this. So I'm like, I got a name for it. And I had actually self-diagnosed myself with it. I was like, I'm
Basically.
MS. It was like, why do you think that? And I'm like, well, this, that, and the third in the line. I mean, WebMD. I'm a doctor, okay?
Graduated.
I went to WebMD, and it all aligned. I think this is what it is. Da, 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 da. And long story short, it ended up getting confirmed. I was right. So I just pretty much let them know, like, hey, I was right. And they're like, okay, so what's next? And I love my friends. We're all, solution oriented. We're not going to wait in this pool pity party together. You can vent. Well, what's happening next? What are we going to do? And how can I support you? So that's where we were at with that. And I'm like, well, he wants me to go through these treatments, yada, yada, yada. I kept that quiet to myself, other than my friends, my close family members. Like I have an older brother, my twin sister, a few of my cousins that I, talk to on a regular basis. They knew, but I didn't like tell or make a big old like Facebook post. And I ain't send out a mass text message like it's Thanksgiving. I was like, yeah, nah. Like you said, those that know, those that need to know. Started seeing therapy. That was there. Like I said before, she was giving me the push to open up. And to be honest, just about maybe 4 months ago, during COVID, I woke up and was like, I'm ready. And so I had session that day, told my therapist, like I said before, she cried. And I've been telling. So I'm a blogger. Originally my name was Adina Fashion and Beauty, but I am literally under a rebrand. And so I'm actually going to go by my name, Rachel Camille Carson. The reason being is I felt like the Adina Fashion and Beauty kind of put me in a box and only dealing with fashion and beauty. And I'm like, I want to talk about much more than that. I want to do much more. I definitely want to talk about my MS journey. I want to talk about just health in general, especially like I said before, like we shared, as far as having those disparities as far as being African American women who aren't getting the help that we need. I was like, I need to talk. I talk about events and stuff that's happening in Atlanta and a whole lot of other. I want to do like an outreach thing with young girls. It's a whole lot. And I was like, just being called the Adina Fashion and Beauty, I think I should probably just go by my name now. So literally that probably happened less than a month ago. I just got my new logo this morning.
Hey.
And so I will be just Rachel Camille Carson. And it was funny because a few of the dials that I follow, they didn't know it was me. They was like, wait, Rachel? Because my name was always Rachel. I just was Rachel Adina Fashion and Beauty. Right. No, now Camille Carson. So now I'll be encompassing all those different venues and not being blocked into that one thing. So now with my blog, I'll be sharing my story more. And I actually looked, I was like, I ain't wrote a blog since March when the world shut down. And even then they ain't know about my MS. Like I said before, only my close circle for the most part. So I'm like, and I had to tell my job. That would be the other place I had to tell. And they were very understanding. I've been there for 5 years. And they just was like, Rachel, what can we do? Do we need to put you on restrictions? We could put you, so we have an ISS room, in school suspension. And like, that room more, so you ain't got to be moving around as much. And you're going to swap out with the other guy whose sole role was to do that, but he wanted to get out and do what we were doing, which was actually getting on the ground and pushing into classrooms and helping teachers and pulling the bad kids out or pushing them back in and things of that nature. So I'm like, all right, cool. So we had a little partnership, and he like, just let me know if you want it, because I'm like, all right, I do want to be able to sit down, but I don't want to be sitting here like, right. It ain't the place. So they would be the other ones who did know in the first round of notifications that, went out, because I also applied for FMLA with my job, because I'm like, you ain't about to be firing me because my attendance not doing that. Cut that check. Exactly. So I did let them know. And like I said before, they were very understanding. But yeah, just recently, I've been sharing my story. So when Ayana, who connected the two of us, that's my cousin, I was like, and literally, and you're probably not going to believe me, maybe you will, that around that time that I was like, it's time to share this story, was when you reached out to me. And I was like, if this ain't a sign, talk about but I'm here for it. So I appreciate you for reaching out and, wanting me to be a part of this interview with you. But yes, it's around that time that I was like, I'm ready. Let's do this. What am I going to do? And it's just started happening. So it's been
That's
cool.
Perfect timing. Yes, John hooked us up because, believe it or not, and it's not a believe it or not, because again, like when I started trying to talk about it, I couldn't. I burst out in tears, and it wasn't until I was able to talk about my story without bursting out in tears that I was like, okay, I'm ready to speak. So I know that the decision to talk about it and be vulnerable is a personal one, and you have to be ready, because nobody want to just be watching the live with two drinks just like crying. Y'all won't be able to hear what we was saying. Y'all just be laughing.
And you just said, I'm sorry to cut you off, but you said the big word was vulnerability, and I think that was my biggest piece. I am not someone who I'm soft, but I ain't soft. Like, I let people know what I want them to see, right?
Right.
It's a gift and a curse. So I'm pretty private, but I think I share enough to let people in. But stuff like that, like, you want me to take my clothes off? You want me to be naked? Like, I ain't ready for that. I need to have my back up against the door and ready to haul ass when shit pop off. And I felt like sharing my story was that, like, oh my God. But now I'm finding the joy and the peace and the just celebration and just being vulnerable. And what I'm learning is, while it's my journey, it's not just mine, it's everyone else's. So that's
Yes.
what I've been embracing, and it's been pretty dope. I can't the response when I finally announced it on my business page, and that's what it started with my business page, and I reshared that on my personal. The response was amazing. Like, oh my God, I can't believe it. Like, you, oh my God, and not in a bad way, but just they already thought I was this dope person. So now you a dope person with MS. So I can't wait. Like, thank you. So that was
Exactly. Yeah. So there aren't a lot of people who are in the place to share their story and build that courage. So I'm very appreciative that you came on today and gave me a small chunk of your time and shared a little piece of your story with us. If you guys are not following Rachel's blog, make sure you head on over there. I will tag her. I've been tagging her, but if you missed it, I will tag her again so y'all can get them, get the key. And if you guys, I'll open it up. I meant to open it up for questions from you guys. Let me see. I know people, you sold some people on the weighted blanket. If you guys don't have any questions for Rachel, we will, I guess, bid our dues. I thank you so much again. I thank you guys for tuning in. I know being on Instagram for an extended period of time is kind of like blah, but she had great energy and a great story. So I hope that you guys found it entertaining. And if you missed a little portion of it, I will be posting this to the IGTV, and it'll also be up on YouTube. And I'm just really excited to see what you produce on your blog. I'm team. I love a good writing. Like,
Yeah,
writing is my thing. I love it so much. So
and we definitely in touch, love. Like, this was dope. I enjoyed this. Again, thank you so much for. I know this is literally my first time in this kind of platform sharing my story. So
hey,
scary. I ain't got no sense. Don't mind me, Morgan.
gotta laugh at it.
To keep from crying.
Amen.
But yes.
All right, lady. Have a good evening.
You do the same.
See ya.
All right.